Okay, so now we are recording. And let me see. Welcome everyone to the Arts Roosevelt Featured Artist Program with Marcy McNeal. Today we are delighted to have the artists with us to answer some questions that you might have at the end of the program. We are always happy to have the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund as the funding partner for these Arts Roosevelt Featured Artist Programs. And the way the program will run today is we'll have a pre-recorded interview with the artist to kind of give you a sense of what the artist's work is, followed by that live Q&A. We encourage you throughout the program to use that chat box to just make any comments about what you're hearing or ask questions. Keep in mind that we'll mostly be answering the questions at the end of the session. At that point, again, I'll remind you to please add any questions you have for the artists in that chat box. So let me see, without further ado, let me go ahead and get us going.
Hello, this is Roseville Mayor Dan Rowe. I wanted to take a moment to thank Arts Roseville and the Ramsey County Library System for their featured artist program and for adapting to our current times by taking the program online in order to reach a wider audience. I believe the arts are important to us both as ways to express the feelings and emotions of our lives and our times, but also to find peace and meaning and hopefully understanding through creative expression and the enjoyment of that expression by others. I hope everyone gets a chance to connect with the Featured Artist Program and to appreciate and support the great local talent we have.
Welcome to the Arts Roseville Featured Artist Program, a partnership of Arts Roseville and the Ramsey County Library Roseville branch. We are so grateful for this partnership. My name is Eden Bart, and I am on the board of Arts Roseville, a local nonprofit organization with a mission of advancing arts, creativity, and community in Roseville. We're thrilled that we can continue to feature local artists through the Featured Artist Programming, virtually for now, and we're so happy that you're joining us. Enjoy the program.
Hello, my name is Wayne Groff, and I'm a board member of Arts Roseville. This month's featured artist is Marcy McNeal. Marcy is a 23-year-old visual artist born in Minnesota and a student at Minneapolis College of Art and Design, also known as MCAD. Marcy sees the world differently because she was born with exotropia, a visual disability that she uses to her advantage when making art. She may literally see the world differently, but she believes that every living thing experiences the world differently, and that idea is something she loves to play with in her art. Growing up on a hobby farm and working quite a bit with many different animals plays a massive role in her inspiration for most of her work, although nature is only the root to her curiosity for life and its place in the cosmos. She fills her pieces with Easter eggs involving mathematics, biology, psychology, history, engineering, and so much more. Please welcome Marcy McNeal.
That was at a some sort of art event that I went to with my high school art teacher when I was in college. So we still kept in contact.
And so did you paint on the mannequin?
No, that was a different artist. I just really enjoyed it and wanted to take a picture with me as the head.
So you were in college and you went to an art show with your high school art teacher. Was that art teacher from Roz?
Yep.
Yes. So that's really neat that you still have a relationship with your art teacher from high school. Must have inspired you.
Yes, definitely. He definitely did. I think that's one of the questions that you guys have on there is like the whole, what kind of made me want to be an artist, and that had to do with I was never really good at art when I was a kid, all the way up until I went to high school, and I had an art teacher, the one who I took this photo with, or who took the photo of me, he told me not to draw what I think I see, draw what I actually see, which it made a lot more sense to me. It doesn't click with a lot of people, but it clicked with me, and it made sense for perspective and dimensions and what's it called? Proportions. And it actually allowed me to draw things, I hope, looking realistically. So ever since that happened, everybody kind of started to like my work. I started drawing and painting more, and the more compliments I got, the more I was kind of like, maybe I should try to do this and make money off of it.
So you've got some interesting visuals here. Can you tell us about them?
Yeah, I am extremely inspired by animals and just life in general. So I've never gone a day in my life without a pet. And I have now probably over 100 pets. And I even work at Sequest as a animal husbandry person, so like a zookeeper. And so I take care of the kinkajou. That's the photo on the left there. And then I also just at home breed crested geckos. That's the photo in the middle. And then the hen on the right is, as I said, I'm like very intrigued with life, and I have a thing for having to rescue animals in need. So this hen on the right has no upper beak. And so we have to feed her smoothies or she can't eat. So she relies heavily on us to survive, and just loves the heck out of me. So that's me kind of getting some love from her. And then that iguana is a 3-legged iguana I'm rescuing. So again, with the whole, very intrigued with trying to help those in need and stuff like that. And obviously just pets and loving animals in general. And then that is me at my college, Minneapolis College of Art and Design. That was what I'm laying down on the floor there is a 80 square foot painting / drawing mixed media piece that was for one of my classes. I don't know what else to say about that. It's, but it has like a bunch of animals in it. It was definitely obviously inspired by just daily life. So again, with the whole life kind of obsession. So I think that one has everything from animals to food to like even like dumbbells or like weights like for working out and stuff, to human bodies and different positions and limbs and yeah, a lot of stuff in it. And it all works together to make one big other object, which is a face and some other things.
Oh,
so.
right. So you have a lot that informs your work and a lot of different animals. And I feel like when I was looking at your work, I can see a lot of the textures that I in the animals in your work. From feathers to the scales, there's something about it that kind of is visually reminiscent of those things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And then that's just me. I also have a thing for fashion, and I'm kind of just making some shorts with some puffy paint. I have a thing for puffy paint too. And that's me at a waterfall out in nature, getting inspiration. And that's who was at my college, MCAD, learning how to do oil paint for the first time, which was just super fun.
Is that a very large space, or are you just practicing brush strokes there, or?
So that we were learning how to do our palettes, right? So like just mixing colors and how it, like, I had never worked with oil paint before. And when you've never worked with oil paint, it's like a whole different thing in comparison to watercolor and acrylic. It's a lot more thick. It's like almost like working with Quickcrete to me, which is kind of probably unfamiliar to a lot of other people, but so like if you think about working with something like that, it's a very different thing. And so we just kind of were experimenting with how we mix colors, how we, not waste a lot of the paint that we don't use after we've already taken out of its tube. And then of course how it applies on paper versus on canvas versus on wood, etc. And that's my 80 square foot painting, drawing, mixed media piece. And as you can see, there's like just tons of different stuff on there. I'm drawing like an atom. I'm sitting on a cello. Let's see, what else can I see in there? The skull from, Day of the Dead type stuff. I see a turtle, a heart, a fox, right? So just a bunch of crazy stuff. Yeah, and it's also very similar to the last one, just like a whole bunch of different, like there's a bunch of different fish and birds, and they're all mixed in with my hair and the wolf's hair. So, it's just kind of like stuff. I always find that stuff works together to make stuff work, and that applies to pretty much everything. Like even if it doesn't work, it ends up working itself out in the future. You know what I mean? So to me, that's kind of what this one was implying with the way that it is.
And what, I see a clock face with Roman numerals.
Yeah, so I just kind of find the Roman numerals to be a sexier looking number than normal numbers, and then the clock is just meant for time is something that is required for things to work themselves out. So that having to be a mix in there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so fun to look at because you can kind of discover, oh, there's another bird. Is that a fish?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it looks like the hair is coming out of your mouth.
Yep. So it's like, it's more than just hair. It's kind of like.
Yeah, and air, breath. It could be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I don't know what to call it.
But it looks kind of braided, which is.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes people, I just did this because it felt right to me, right? Like it worked right to me. But a lot of people have told me that it looks like muscle too.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So I don't really care what to other people it seems like. I think that whatever it is to other people is always fascinating to me. So I like to hear about it, but it doesn't necessarily need to mean anything in particular to the viewer, to me, if that makes sense. The whole vision thing, so I have a vision disability called Exotropia. And so it kind of basically means that one of my eyes does not want to work with the other one. And so it kind of goes like this on me, and you can't see it. Even eye doctors who don't specialize in it can't see it. So it's not something that's easily, it's very easily misdiagnosed with other things. So if you're having vision issues, definitely check it out, because it's a lot of times not caught. But because of that, it makes my sight kind of look like this. So it's hard for me to read. It's hard for me to keep focus on things, but it makes art a lot easier for me because I can blur things out when I want to and allow myself to see things almost like people would have to squint or step back for a further distance to be able to see it the way that I see it. And so even things like having to do details and then go from that to blurriness is very easy for me to do. And blending and shading and that kind of stuff is super easy for me to do. And I really like to be able to rest my eyes and not have to focus on things. So doing something like this was super enjoyable for my eyes. So that one, again, with the whole blending kind of, you know, movements, bright colors, easy to spot for the left. And then the one on the right is the 80-foot final version, 80-foot painting. And as you can see, it's just like a whole mix of a bunch of different things working together to make kind of one thing, but like 4 different things at the same time. So again, with a lot going on, you know, I tend to have a very crazy life, and I think that kind of puts itself into my work, even though I don't really try to do that. I definitely don't stick to one type of style in my work. I can, and I love to go back to things that I've already done, but doing it in a different way. But I also love to experiment with just like trying to make things look kind of realistic or cartoony, which isn't on this, but just another kind of style that's widely different. And then again, with like the whole like almost surreal or like weird aspect. Like there's obviously not gonna be a skeleton in a cracked desert with a dead tree and a wolf head over it, you know, you're never gonna find that. But at the time, I think each of the different things that I put in this all meant something to me and all worked together for a part in my life. I don't remember what that was now, and that's oftentimes the case after I paint something that involves my life. And I think that's why I like to do stuff like that. It kind of lets me forget about things and move on.
In this one, I particularly love the colors in your hair and the colors in the painting.
Yeah.
So this is not a primed canvas. I put the primer as the label on top of each of the objects as like a sealant, right? So primer is used as like the basis for a painting. To me, the definition or the word for each of these things is the base for them, right? So we all call a foot a foot. And so that's the prime base of what we understand about it and how we call it what it is. So essentially all I did was I took an unprimed canvas and I rolled a whole bunch of paint onto myself, and then I went onto the paint and I did like a couple of workouts, and I just kind of rolled around on this unprimed canvas with paint on me. And then when I got up, I looked at the paint and tried to find things that looked familiar to me in the paint, and then obviously labeled those things that looked familiar to me after I traced them. So it's kind of like a call out as to like, why do we really call things the way that they are? There can be multiple names for them, and just sort of like understanding that things are the things that we say they are, but there's more to it than that, I guess. That's kind of hard for me to explain more than that.
What would you call yourself, an intuitive painter then? In that respect, that's what you come across as to me, is that you kind of let the paintings happen through you. You don't really, do you plan a lot in advance, or do you kind of just go and let it take you where you're going?
This one I definitely did let it take me. But when it comes to commission paintings, I think I do a lot more planning. Other than that, when it comes to like my own paintings or what I do for me, or just for creativity in general with no rules or anything, I definitely let it just take me.
I just wanted to comment one more thing. I feel like I'm the kind of the comic relief in this. This one made me think of a collage. And as you spoke about it, that things are what we call them and so much more, that it's almost a collage type composition too, in the way that you thought about the images that you discovered in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
There, that's my commentary.
Yes, I agree with that. And that one actually represented time for me, and how I wish there was a way to kind of do this to it, but it's impossible. So it's kind of a faded painting because of that. It's sort of just an idea. It's not really ever a possibility as far as something that we can control.
I love that. So I can't tell you how many times I think most of us who work or have kind of busy lives, you think, I just wish I could just stop the rest of the world and get what I want to get done, and then we can turn it all back on.
Yeah.
Right.
Stick the line back up.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's just, inspired by animals. Surrealism, I guess.
Yeah, well, you have all those reptiles, so I can see that. That was
I have a snake too. Again, inspired by animals, or at least in this one, lionfish. And then surrealism again, mixed it with a human face.
It's really cool.
It is.
And then that one is a lot like the self-portrait that I had with the birds and the fish with the wolf face. Again, with time and lines, and they all kind of work together and make things work somehow.
Well, and tree rings are like a measure of time.
Right.
I mean, the world is super important for life to happen, right? So to me, this is a representation of we need to do better as far as pollution and everything like that. As much as I have an appreciation for mechanics and cars and everything that humans do for the world, for us, we have to do a lot better for the planet as well, and stop doing such selfish acts. And so this is just me being like, hey, we need to do better, or we're gonna gobble up all of our resources and not have any left. And it is on recycled material. It's on like a recycled board that was gonna be thrown away. And it's using paint that I was gonna throw away because I didn't use it on other paintings I was working on. So all in all, it's a representation of let's do better.
Now there's two of these. Is it the same building? And then,
Barn.
yeah.
Yes. So those were commissioned, and they were of the same photo of the same barn. One was meant to look. This one in particular was meant to look a lot more abstract, actually. And I was gonna make it, or not abstract, but just not realistic, right? So I was trying to add in a bunch of different textures and colors and stuff, but I ended up liking just certain areas that ended up looking a lot more real than I wanted them to. And so I just made the painting realistic, and the person that commissioned it was like so totally fine with that. They were like, yeah, this is great. So, but then I also wanted to offer a painting that was different and not realistic, which is what they asked for, which is that one. So. And that's the puffy paint is on that one as well. I don't know if you can tell, but all the black is puffy paint.
Oh,
I love that.
and the other one to me, again, don't know. Can you go back to that one for a
Yes,
minute?
that one seems very impressionist.
Maybe,
Yeah.
also to me, it has a little bit of the look of what I think is called primitive kind of American paintings, like a,
Yes.
I don't know what about it, just some of the colors and brush strokes even. So it looks like it could be a 19th century.
Love that one too.
I do too, kind of a red, white, and blue thing going on there.
Yeah. So did the people that commissioned it want both of them, or you showed them two options, or?
Yeah, I offered, I did this one after I did the first one because the first one wasn't what they asked for. And then I was like, so I did what you wanted. And then I also did the exact opposite of what you wanted. And they were like, oh, I love that too. So.
Wonderful.
And then that was one that I got several awards for. I think I got a total of 3 awards for that one.
Tell us all about it.
I don't know. There's not really a whole lot to tell about it. It was supposed to represent peaking, right? So like, you know, your peekaboo or whatever. And the word peak is in the beak itself. And that was actually an assignment for a class that I did not finish on time, but I got permission from the teacher to have more time on it because I wanted to complete it to this. So
This is like a culmination of a lot of your work. You've got those multiple textures, and you use 2 colors often on your work too. I noticed that.
I made it. I found a pattern that I liked, imitated the pattern on Photoshop, using colors that I liked to try to make it look gold. And then I drew the bird. I'm trying to think of how I did this. I drew the bird's outline. So all of the black, like sort of, you know, fuzziness that you see around everything is like the base of what I did. And then I painted underneath that, the blue, shaded that all out. And then I put an underlayer of the pattern under the blue and the black, and then shaded that, and then made like the eye kind of look as real as I could, and filled in the background.
Good. And how was art presented to you, and what first got you excited about art? You told us a little bit about your art teacher in high school, but let's go back to your Brimhall days.
I was always creative when I was in elementary school, and when I was just a kid. I had a very wild imagination. I always have, and I always will. But I don't think I was ever really good at anything in art particularly, like talented at least. And so it wasn't, like I said, until high school that I met the art teacher that told me to draw what I see and not what I think I see. And that just changed my whole world as far as how things looked and how I draw them. And ever since then, I've just used that to make my career.
How about in your family? Does anyone in your family call themselves an artist?
Yes, both my mom and my dad are artists in their own very particular ways. My dad runs his own architecture firm and is the architect. And he has just super creative architecture. He's very proud of what he's done. And then my mom is a whole different kind of artist. I'm also really proud of everything she's done. She works with animals, kind of like me. I think I got my animal love thing from her. But she does sort of like advertisement and like website creating, all that kind of stuff. I don't know the particulars about either of them, but essentially that's kind of what they do. And I think they both want, ever since I was a kid, I think they both wanted me to do something in the creative field. So they definitely pushed me to be as creative as I ever wanted to be all the time. And then when I finally started to have a good talent at it, they, you know, paid for my schooling and, you know, were just extremely supportive of me becoming an artist. And yeah.
That's wonderful.
Do you think it's more freeing to have restrictions, or do you like to have complete freedom?
I like both. I think it's freeing to not have any rules, but it's also very fun to have restrictions and have to figure something out. It's a lot more of a challenge, and I like challenges, so.
If someone were interested in pursuing your art form or taking their artistry to the next level, what would you recommend?
Practice, for sure. I think that's an obvious one, though. I think the second obvious one that a lot of people say too is time management skills. It's a really big one, to be able to be like, oh, I have 7 projects and these are their due dates, and this is how I'm going to have to work out how we do this. You know, it's definitely something that you need to have in order to make money off of being an artist, I think. But I think that anybody can go after doing whatever they want to creatively.
What is your dream art project?
One that would be endless and super massive. I could definitely make an endless painting on something small, but I would love to have an opportunity to do like an entire building, or like a massive parking lot, or like, you know, a whole street or something. Just something really, really big that I can just like use my whole body to draw with and do whatever I want to do on it.
How do people find out about your commission work?
What do you mean by that?
Well, if I wanted you to,
like, how can?
Yeah, how would someone get a hold of you? I mean, what's the process?
I would go to MarcyMcNeal.work and go to the contact me page. Send me an email. That the whole website is being consistently edited and everything like that. So I do apologize if like you want to click on something and you can't. I'm probably doing stuff.
Earlier we talked a little bit about the epidemic COVID, and the painting of the wolf made me think about that. I wondered whether in this last year, 18 months, if your approach has been affected by the pandemic. Did isolation and the shutdowns have an impact on you and your art?
Yeah, it definitely, I don't think there's anybody out there that it didn't impact. It fortunately did not affect anybody, like nobody that I cared about got sick or died or anything crazy like that happened. Thank God. But it definitely, you know, I know people that know people who have died or who have gotten it. And it's a really big deal, and it's against everything that I love, which is life, right? So to me, I think this year was a big change. I mean, back when I was in high school, I struggled with depression, like a long time ago. I was just very, very depressed, and it's kind of gradually gotten better. And I think actually COVID this year allowed me to kind of flip a switch in my life and sort of be like, I can pretend like all of these people are victims and I'm a victim and we're all sad and this shouldn't be happening to any of us, or I can be happy and pretend like it's, you know, just another, or not even pretend, but like I have a tattoo that says everything that happens is motivation, you know, so I can kind of use the sadness or whatever badness there is to help me decide what I'm going to do to make my life better or the people around me lives better. You know what I mean? So to me, it was almost like kind of like a blessing in disguise. But I dare to say that because I know so many lives were just so destroyed by the virus. And, you know, my boyfriend's grandmother got it. And my boyfriend had, you know, super big financial difficulties because of it. I think he lost one of his jobs because of some stuff that happened because of it. And it's a big deal. But to me, I think it's allowing me to decide either I handle it poorly or I handle it like positively, and I try to live happily despite everything, right? So
Did that impact your artwork or your painting? Did you stop painting? Did you paint more?
I will always be creative, so I think I don't think it affected me at all. I don't think anything could affect me being creative. I would say I think I didn't get commissions for a while, so I think it affected other people to where they can't come to me for that. But I did also find this new job working as the animal husbandry in order to keep up with my finances and stuff. And that has actually been also a kind of blessing in disguise because I'm working on being an artist for them too. So despite not having commissions in the past for about a year, I did have work that I was doing for skincare companies and my dad's architecture firm, and now for this Sequest job that I'm doing. So
I have another kind of random question. So
sure.
please talk to us about being an artist in Roseville and what you like or dislike about living in Roseville.
Well, I lived in Roseville my entire life. I've lived in this house since I was 1 year old. And it looks like I might possibly be continuing to live in it I might be renting it for the rest of my life. Just because we have so many animals in here and there's just it's hard to move with this many kind of roots here. But I think Roseville is a very, very unique place, even though it looks like every other town. It's very friendly, but it's also convenient, I think, is the biggest thing. To find jobs, at least to find, go to get groceries and go for walks and hang out with your animals, right? So that's kind of why we're here. But I do love to escape and not be here. I love to go travel, and I think that staying here is not necessarily the most awesome thing in the world, but if you get to travel, it works itself out.
So it's obvious, you've told us, and it's also obvious in your art that animals are a love of yours. If you could turn into one at will, which one would you choose?
A dolphin. Definitely a dolphin. They have fun, they're smart, they can communicate, and those are all the things that I love about my life.
You're very open about your exotropia, and in your bio, you talked about using this vision disability to your advantage in making art. Please expand on that and tell us how.
So essentially, it's like I said, that as exotropia makes me see things like this. So it's very like a letter will be, you know, like this, and there'll be a second letter on top that's shaking. So it makes everything super blurry. But what I have found is like, and I found this out in high school, in my art class, a lot of people would have to squint or step away from the canvas to see the piece that they're working on the same way that I would if I just relax my eyes. So it allows me to be able to, at a glance, be able to shade things and proportionize things, or whatever the word is for that, right? Make things proportionate. And, you know, see things at a glance and almost from far away just by relaxing my eyes. It's something that I don't think that it's like a superhero thing, that it makes my art better than other people's, right? I don't think that by any means, but what I do think is it allows me to feel comfortable while I'm working on something, which is really hard to do when, even like right now, when I'm looking at you guys, I'm forcing my eyes to stay together, which at the end of the day gives me a big headache. And so to be able to spend, you know, 5 hours working on something that I can blur my eyes out and not have to worry about, you know, concentrating on keeping things solid, that's the biggest benefit that I think I get from having something like Exotropia.
If you could be highly talented in an additional art form, which one would you choose and why?
I'd want to have to, or I would want to work with clay better than I know how to right now. Reason for that is I don't know why I can't work with clay the same. Like I work with Quikrete, which you would think sculpting things like that would be pretty similar, but to me it's just a whole different world. And my parents love pottery, so I'd love to be able to have that sort of common art thing to be able to do with them, but I just have no talent at it whatsoever. I'm like really bad at it.
Kind of as you look at your work so far and how it's developed and how you feel about it, when you look ahead in the next year or two, what kind of growth are you looking
I see.
for? Technical growth or inspiration?
I see. Well, I think I have always been doing things like paintings and drawings. And now all of a sudden I am actually able to, at my job at Sequest, do things like actual murals or Quikrete, you know, sculptures that I have to paint then and make, you know, put fake plants in and make look realistic. So I get to actually, instead of just painting animals, and instead of just working with animals, make the enclosure that the animals are in and make it look so creative that the kids are kind of almost, you know, more intrigued or almost fooled by, you know, like, ooh, it's the same environment that they come from naturally, you know. And that I think is just super exciting. I never thought I'd do anything like that. And so I think just, I mean, like I said, never having thought of doing that and just all of a sudden getting that opportunity is something I'm so looking forward to.
Yeah. If you could come up with an art project to do in Roseville, what would you do?
The whole Black Lives Matter thing is a big deal to me. And at the time that all of that craziness was going down, I really wanted to get out there and do like a on the street sort of Black Lives Matter, or, you know, the names of these people, or that kind of thing. A lot like a lot of the people that are out there, that were out there doing that at the time. But I don't know, as of right now, I'd love to come up with something for the world, right? And, you know, no pollution, recycle, etc. But until I have something, I try to put if I know I can't come up with the best idea for it, I'm going to say I don't have an idea for it, because I try to put my all into something. So until I have a really good idea, I don't know, but if I were to do something in Roseville, it would mean something to the community for sure, at least.
Is there any parts of Roseville that you find inspiring as far as art or nature?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm I have a field in my backyard that I take my dogs for walks in, and I think there's a whole bunch of parks and places in Minnesota too that are fantastic places to be inspired by for nature. And then I mean, I know that there's a lot of car communities around here too that I enjoy hanging out with and doing meets around here and stuff like that. I don't know what else. I take my inspiration from just daily living. So the fact that I live in Roseville, I think Roseville is definitely in my art for sure. You know, everything that I kind of have experienced, it's majority of it is from Roseville. So I think all of it can be considered inspiration.
At this point, I'd like to go ahead and invite our Arts Roseville board members and the artist Marcy McNeal on camera to answer any questions or address comments that you all might have. So again, please feel free to use that chat box to just type in any comments or questions you have for the artist.
Thank you.
I'll read you some of the things from the chat box for you to respond to, Marcy. So we've had quite a few comments thanking the Artist Talk series, thanking you. Someone said, Amy O'Keefe says that your art makes me think in a different way, and I love that. There was another comment saying, I love the piece related to climate justice. What a wonderful representation of what goes on inside of me. Emil Staba says, you in yourself are truly creative and loving. Beautiful. So I don't see any additional
Questions?
Yeah. So as you watched it, is there any, as you watched the video and the interview and how it got edited, was there anything? Oh, here's a good one. Cher McNeal asks how she can go about purchasing a piece.
So like I said, go to MarcyMcNeal.org and then send me an email. There's a contact page on there. Then I also see what is your favorite piece. I definitely do not have a favorite piece. I think every piece is very different in meaning. I will say that the piece with the rainbow fish with the black and white tarantula in front, that was the funnest for me to do and the most relaxing for my eyes. So I think that was the funnest just in general for me. What is your favorite medium to use? I love oil paint. Oil paint is amazing to use. It just takes a long time. I also like charcoal. That's another, I don't get a lot of times to be able to use it, but when I can use it, it's definitely really fun. Do you think about a piece before starting on it, or do you do a lot of improvisation? So yeah, I usually do a lot more improvisation than, if that's the right word for it, than I do planning. Although usually for like commission projects, if it has anything, you know, a whole bunch of rules and stuff that I have to kind of confine to, I plan a lot for that. I want to make sure it's right for that person. If there are places in Roseville where we could use public art in your opinion. Oh yes, there's lots of places that we can use public art. I think there's also places that we can, you know, make more even just in general eco-friendly, right? We can, like, instead of having just a bunch of cement on the ground, let's have some plants. But I think there's not so much that much improvement that needs to be made in Roseville. I think it would be more of like a sort of fun thing, or a, I don't know. I think around Roseville, we try to support our artists enough to the point where I think everybody is kind of, I don't know how to explain this. I think there is enough art in Roseville, but I think there can always be more. That's what I'm trying to say. Are there places?
Francesco Favazza asks, have any artists influenced you?
Yes, tons of artists have influenced. I mean, probably 1 million artists have influenced me. I could not name one in particular. I find inspiration from just everything and everyone. Even if it's art that I don't like, I find inspiration from it. So name 3 artists I'd like to be compared to. Whew, that's man, I don't know. I think everybody would love to be compared to Picasso. But I think my reason for that in particular is sometimes when my eyes get really, really tired and I just can't see straight anymore, the world looks very similar to the way that Picasso's paintings were. And so for me to be compared to that would be very cool. But I couldn't name 2 others. I think there's too many artists that I love and that I'd love to be compared to. But, how many are, or yeah, so let's see.
There's one that asks, what are the steps you take to plan out a project when you rely less on improvising?
So usually I will start out with kind of like a super simple sketch that makes no sense to anybody else except for me. That kind of starts out the idea, and then I do a whole bunch of research so that I have like a base starting point as to kind of what I think I want. And then I just look up on Pinterest all the different ideas that might be similar. I look up on Google, Instagram, everything. And then once I feel like I've sort of seen a lot of stuff that'll be enough of an influence on that project, I come up with several more ideas. And then I kind of narrow down those several ideas to the one that's the best. And then I go for that.
Another question is, what do you dislike about the art world?
I dislike how it is being treated, or at least how people look at it. I think there's a lot of people out here, especially like this whole thing is supporting me as an artist, right? So this is incredible and amazing and a great opportunity for me. But I do find that a lot of people do not understand that artists can contribute to being a productive member of society. And so like people find out like, oh, I can build an enclosure for an animal and make it highly entertaining for children to be around. And that's a form of art that should be respected. Yet a lot of times people just don't find the use in that. And to me, entertainment and fun and looking at stuff that's inspiring to you for your own imagination and creativity, those are highly important things. It's necessary for life and for loving life. And so if I could change anything about the art world, that's what I would change, is how people view it. But that's a hard thing to do. Let's see. What are steps you take for, oh, let's see. So what role does the artist have in society? So what role does the artist have in society? I think it plays one of the largest roles. And then a continuation of that question, do you think art is supported in public education? I think in education, yes, it is supported. There's a lot of classes you can take. There's AP art classes and stuff like that. But I think that once people grow out of that, they don't see the way that artists play a role in society. You would not be looking at, you would not be listening to music, you wouldn't be watching TV, you wouldn't see the movies that have the incredible graphics that they have, you wouldn't even have a pretty garden at that point. Like, these are all artist jobs, and they all mean something, and they all contribute to a society that creates a better presence for everyone, and a better environment for everyone. And I think that's what the role of an artist plays. They're not necessarily somebody that builds the house, but they're the person that makes the house look good, right? So my dad, as an architect, he's making beautiful, beautiful homes rather than just putting a bunch of boxes together for you to live in, you know? So.
There was also a question that asked about the steps you take, the process you take when someone commissions you to do an artwork.
Sure, yeah. So like I said, I come up with like my initial idea when I hear what they want. I'm like, oh, this is what I'm thinking of right now. And then I do a bunch of research and I try to kind of change my ideas to be better than what they started as. And then I narrow it down and go with the idea that seems like it'll be the best. I see, which art museum in MN would you recommend? MIA, I mean, I don't know. I've been to quite a few art museums. I think that they're all worth going to, for sure. I don't think that there's one that I can specifically recommend, although the MIA is right next to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, my college, MCAD. And that I've been in a whole bunch of times, and there's always something new in there. So I definitely will always recommend that one.
Lori Reese said that says, hi, Marcy, you know we have your peekaboo art in our living room. I just went up to it and found the word peek. Never saw it before. How cool is that? So
Yeah.
that putting those little, like you said, the Easter eggs or the hidden messages in your work adds another interactive element to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to do that with almost everything that I do. So unless it's a commission piece, and even then I kind of sometimes secretly add a little something.
It gets people to look at the art more closely and conceptually.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you all so much. I'll just say, I'll give you a minute to maybe think about a final word that you might want to share with us, Marcy. But while you're thinking about that, I'm going to put in the chat box just a link to our feedback survey, just asking participants to fill it out with what you've learned today. That helps us kind of report back to the grant funders for this program. Thank you all so much for joining us for this Arts Roseville Featured Artist Program. And I'll turn it back to you, Marcy, and to both Karen and Kathy for being such great moderators. What final words do you have for us?
I appreciate everyone who is here and everybody who looks at this. Especially the people that introduced me to doing this and allowed me to be a featured artist. I really appreciate it. And I hope that more people can involve themselves with this. I think that's about all I have.
We have one last message that says, this was such a wonderful program. I learned a lot. I loved how I could join all the way from La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Thank you to Marcy and Karen and the library and the Legacy Fund for allowing us to do this program.
Have a great rest of the afternoon, everyone.